Welcome back, my friends. Thank you for tuning into the Andy Shectman and Silver Slayer show. We do this show once a week, try to at least. We're both very busy people, but this is where we just, sit back, relax, talk silver, update you guys on everything. We're doing a live stream, hopefully next Thursday. It'll be a live stream / giveaway, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I know you guys have a lot of questions for Andy. But yeah, we're just gonna talk about everything today. There's a lot happening. I'm sure you guys love when Andy talks as well. I'm always sitting here with my jaw to the floor. But so yeah, anyways, what's up, Andy? What's been going on?
Good to see you, my man. It's been too long, with the craziness at the end of the year and the holidays and whatnot. I apologize for being harder to track down, but it's good to be back and good to see you, and hope all is well with you.
Yeah. Yeah, the holidays are crazy. I mean, especially, silver's usually bullish or bearish at the end. I mean, all investments are, usually during the end of the year, people are traveling. A lot of people probably sell a lot of their portfolio just to buy Christmas presents, especially with inflation. But yeah, silver's price has actually been doing a lot right now. What do you think about that? Do you think it's just a little bit of a facade, or do you think it could actually keep going up into next year?
Well, I know you did a podcast on India, which is emblematic on a larger scale of the way that I see things. Let me explain. India is poised to import 300 million ounces of silver this year. That's a massive amount of silver. Yeah. And when you realize that we've seen a 75% drawdown in the last 18 months of the silver stockpile in the registered category on the COMEX to 33 million ounces. It was 140 million ounces at the beginning of silver squeeze. And now here we are at 33 million ounces, nearly 1/10 of what what India is going to import in the year 2022. The price setting mechanism of the world, really of the West, has 33 million ounces, and yet we're seeing India import that much every single month or more. We're seeing record drawdowns off of the London Metals Exchange, as we've talked about, to the lowest level of inventory since they've ever started keeping records. This is a 140-year-old exchange. We're seeing SLV being drained by the authorized participants on top of being shorted tremendously. There's a huge short position on SLV, drive down the price and then pull out the physical silver. The whole thing is the whole ecosystem at the top, where it's being drained by the most well-funded, well-informed, sophisticated investors in the world, is betraying the price and the rhetoric. The price says, 40-year high inflation, war, all this stuff. Yeah, it's climbed up to nearly 24 bucks. Actually, it was there yesterday. But so what? It should be a whole hell of a lot higher. Yeah. And gold, it should be a whole hell of a lot higher. But when we look at gold, I know you are the silver slayer, but gold is just as important in the whole scheme of things too. When we talk about gold, year to date, 673 tons have been purchased by the world's central banks, or better yet said, have been exported out of the US. That's more than on any year since 1967, and the year's not even over yet, where we'll get all the updated numbers. In the third quarter of this year, we saw 400 tons of gold exported out of the US, which is nearly double the biggest quarter on record of about 247 tons. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you is that price is a tool of misdirection. We talk about this a lot, that phrase.
I love that phrase.
But think about it for a moment. If price was really indicative of demand, value, and supply, then who and why are the exchanges at the highest level? And those exchanges which get the least amount of attention by the mainstream, why are they being drained? who has enough money to drain it? And remember, when things leave the COMEX, they lose immediate liquidity from an industrial perspective. And I talk about this a lot. Imagine Elon Musk saying to the COMEX, hey, anyone who's got 1,000-ounce bars, I'm paying a $20 an ounce premium right now. And how many people would jump at that? A lot of people would. They would transfer their metal out of the eligible category into the registered category where it could be delivered. Once it leaves the system, that's not going to happen, because to get it back into the system and reassay it takes time and an inordinate amount of effort and money. It's very bullish is what I'm getting at. The price is what we all fixate on. We buy something, we want it to go up, we want to feel like we're smart. But you have to have strong fingertips. You have to trust your gut. And we are at a point in time where we're in uncharted waters, where there's very little to gauge where we are basis where we once were. Because we've really never been where we are right now. And you have to trust your gut. And with that sometimes comes having strong fingertips and hanging on through the ups and the downs and the counterintuitive price action and the rhetoric and being called an idiot by your family and friends. In the end, I think those who have the ability to trust their gut, to stand out on a limb against the conventional wisdom, against the crowd, when the dust settles or when all hell breaks loose, it will become very evident very quickly that you made the right decision.
Yeah, you have to understand its true value. You know, understanding silver's true value and understanding the dollar's true value. I think a lot of people do judge silver on its price, which price is irrelevant. You can't compare fake money to real money.
And the question being, you know, why is it so important for the commercial banks and the central banks to suppress gold and silver? What does it represent? See, you know, that's an investment to a lot of people, right? But to the central bankers, that's kryptonite. That is wealth that is outside the system. And so those people that look at gold and silver and see a shiny coin or whatever, that's wealth and has been wealth for a long time, remember that it is the antithesis of the health of the system. So there's a term in economics called Gibson's paradox, which speaks to the inverse relationship between real interest rates and gold. This is the reason the central banks have suppressed gold for so long, but because by suppressing interest rates, you create a perception and an illusion of prosperity. You must step on the canary in the mine shaft. That is the price of gold and silver as it relates inversely to the health of the Western system. So understand that it is in the best interest of every government to print the crap out of the money supply, but blur the metrics by which we gauge inflation and by which we gauge the health of the economy and of the system. Well, you can manipulate the CPI. You can get rid of numbers like M3, which when I started in this industry, M3 used to be the broadest measure of the money supply, but they stopped printing M3 because they called it an archaic number that no one looked at. But indeed it was. It showed us how much inflation was entering the system. And then they used M2. And I believe they even took M2 away. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I'm positive they got rid of M3. The point of it is that they'll lie about inflation and the CPI. They'll pull out food, energy, and housing and blur the metrics by which we gauge inflation. They'll blur the metrics by which we can gauge money creation. And they'll also step on those things that shine a light upon the frailty of the system. That is gold and silver. All of that being said, the most sophisticated, well-informed, and well-funded traders on the globe for the past 18 months have been destroying the supply by taking possession of metal off of the exchanges, and it's going away from the exchanges. It's a one-way ticket and it's never coming back. And that is what you need to see. That is the misdirection. That is what the big money is doing quietly, while the majority of the people out there look at the price and just keep on walking.
Yeah, people need that validation, that confirmation that it can go higher. You know, when silver was $11 in March of 2020, I was still telling everyone to buy it, but I bet most people were avoiding it at $11. But I bet at $30 during the Wall Street silver movement, they were buying it like hotcakes. Buy
It's the
low,
same
sell
people that
high.
are buying the Dow Jones at
Yeah,
35,000 that should have been buying it at 3,500.
yeah.
You know, when I started in this industry in 1989, the Dow Jones was 2,300. And I watched it go up, you know, to 35,000 plus. At the same time, the Japanese Nikkei was 40,000. And I watched that fall by, you know, it's still not even three quarters of the way to where it was in 1980 or 1990 rather. And it's you know, with interest rates at or near zero in Japan, markets will go higher to the upside than anyone ever thinks possible, and to the downside more than anyone ever thinks possible. Before this is all said and done, silver will be higher than anyone thinks possible.
Yeah.
That I can assure you, because look at the positioning of a company like JP Morgan, according to Ted Butler, has 1.2 billion ounces of physical silver, 12 times what the Hunt brothers tried to buy. If it were such a bad thing to do, why would they own that and over 40 million ounces of physical gold? All
Yeah.
told, the largest physical position of metal the world's ever seen, because they are misdirecting with price and rhetoric and positioning for what's coming next.
Yeah. Going back to India demand. So in my video, I was talking about, you know, on the surface, why they would be, you know, sweeping up all this silver and gold. You know, there's this digital currency backed by physical commodities. But I remember in one of our shows a couple months ago, I was talking about the deeper narrative of they have a strong interest in oil. They don't want us to go green. So if they know that silver is used in EVs and solar panels and, you know, all these other things, 5G towers, silver lithium ion batteries, if they could take all that from us, then we couldn't go green, and the numbers don't add up. I just covered a video on David Morgan's letter to Elon Musk. Even, you know, Mike Maloney sending that letter where you know, he's talking about we don't have enough silver to go green. We just don't. And then you talked about Elon Musk saying, you know, hey, can I grab all these bars? What if Elon Musk comes out publicly and says, hey, we have to cut down the production of, or slow down the production of Tesla because we don't have enough silver? And he's just the mascot. Think about much bigger, you know, much bigger business than just SpaceX, Solar City, or Tesla. And
How about
I
the rare
think,
earth metals? The majority
yeah,
of all the rare earth metals come from China. So we are not in a position to go green. We'll be reliant upon other countries instead of Saudi Arabia and OPEC to help us. And if you were Saudi Arabia, why the hell would you want to ever do anything to help the US when we are
right.
destroying their way of life? You had Biden up on stage talking to the people of the Paris Climate Accord saying, we are going to not only pay $20 billion to the emerging market nations for all of the pollution that us bad US people create, but we're also going to continue to move away from fossil fuels. You're right. And it's not a bad ploy. When you talk about India, during the month of July, the numbers get updated. You know, we've already talked about what they imported in September, but oftentimes they go back and update the numbers. During the month of July, India imported 71.1 tons or 2.29 million ounces of gold and 1,750.2 tons or 56.2 million ounces of silver. That's just a hair behind the record ever of their monthly imports. And that's almost double what is at the COMEX market in the registered category for 1 month. So yeah, they are at 300 million ounces that they would take up. That's about a third of global market, of global mine supply. That's the real deal. And if it's depleting and getting harder and harder to get, and you see governments that are taking a third of all that's mined, when solar panels, as is, take care of almost half of what's mined, you're talking very little bit left for anything else, including a green or digital agenda. You're right, it's disappearing. And when you talk to Keith Newmeyer and he says, hey, it's coming out of the ground at 7-1, but it was 16-1 for thousands of years, it's
Right.
depleting in nature. So not only is the above ground stockpile disappearing, the ability to pull it out of the ground efficiently and cost effectively is also becoming much, much more difficult. Yeah, good point.
Yep, it's thrown away and not to be recycled. And there's very few focal silver mines. And I know there's one I think in Canada that was going to open up, but they're boycotting it because of the pollution in the water or whatever, the ground, which is ironic because silver actually purifies water. But
it's interesting too. I heard from a client right before I got on here with you, maybe my biggest client that I've ever had. And he's been a client of mine for 3 decades, an amazingly smart man. He believes that they're going to start mining, get this, mining the garbage dumps, the huge landfills will start, that there will be companies that will come in and mine the landfills. Well, why the hell would they do that? Where is all of the silver
right,
that was
and
used
landfills.
in industry? That's right.
Yep.
Anything like this, the first, let's say the iPhone 3, the one that came out 15, 18 years ago. How many of those ended up in a landfill? Or how about the first Walkman you used when you were 12 years old, or the first handheld video game you played, or anything that conducts electricity has a little bit of silver in it, and all that's been thrown away. If it gets to a point where we're going through garbage heaps to pull out silver, how dire is it? Well, he believes very, very strongly that this is already something being planned, and there are companies working on ways to go through the garbage dumps and pull out things that would have silver in it and recycle it, silver, copper, and maybe even a little bit of gold. So interesting when you think about that. If it was so easy to find, that wouldn't even be on the table.
Right. Just like Perthmint saying they're starting to scrap laptops and cell phones for their own supply as well. I think it was Perthmint or the Royal Mint started doing that last year. I mean, there is more I do see a lot of recycling coming into play over the last year, and I think that's just awareness. People are finally waking up and saying that we don't have enough, but I don't think recycling is even going to put a dent into this situation.
Because such little amount is used in everything that you might have a fifth of an ounce of silver in an iPhone or less. Is it economical? Probably not until it is. And this is why one of the reasons why silver demand, or the whole silver story, is so bullish, because so much of the silver that has been used in industry over the last 80 years has wound up in landfills. Whereas just about anything gold related that has been mined since Genesis is above ground in the form of jewelry or bars or whatnot. Even the gold that you pull up from the bottom of the ocean from 200 years ago, once cleaned up, looks brand new. So gold has a propensity to stick around. Silver has had the propensity to be thrown out. And it's going to get to a point, if you listen to some people out there, they'll tell you that while gold is much more scarce in nature, above ground stockpiles puts silver more scarce than gold. Gold is more rare geologically, but maybe it's silver that is more scarce above ground in terms of its ability to be used in industrial applications.
Yeah, especially silver's a byproduct, and they find silver by accident. If they so happen find some silver while they're digging up gold, lead, or zinc, they'll take it, but they're not looking for it.
65% of all the silver mined comes from byproduct mining. If you figure there's a billion ounces a year mined, and it's a little less than that, 650 million comes from companies that, oh, look, we found some silver. And these are the companies that have no vested interest in holding the silver back. They're going to sell it right away. And so, people say, well, why don't the silver miners just withhold production? Well, not only is it a very labor-intensive, cost-intensive business, a lot of these miners are hand-to-mouth. The big ones, like First Majestic, who have the ability to withhold a little bit, are few and far between, but they only represent 35% of the silver being mined. The 65% comes from companies mining copper and zinc and lead and gold, and stumble across it. So they're going to sell it right away. But yeah, you're right. These are all the pieces that should make people understand that. And again, it's really hard for people to take what I'm about to say at face value, but price means shit. Price does not mean anything right now because the fundamentals are so strong. Price does mean something most of the time, maybe all of the time, but it means less now than it's ever meant, because the massive drawdowns, the massive need for silver, the decreasing stockpile above ground, the disappearing geological footprint of silver, and the massive drawdowns from the world's exchanges are all saying something different than the price. It must be damn important. It really must be important to the people pulling the strings to suppress silver and gold for as long as they have, because the biggest money in the world is using that to run cover for massive de-dollarization and acquisition of gold and silver, that if all you did, and most people are guilty of just looking at the price, well, then you're going to be misled like everybody else. But I would argue that that's the same thing in all forms of investing. This is why you have the herd mentality or wave theory. Kondratiev wave, Elliott wave, all speaks to human emotion. Most people follow the emotion and follow the herd. The guy like you or me, who have been standing out on a limb speaking Greek to the world, no, everyone's like, who the hell is this guy talking about silver? Why would we want that? Or why would we want what? And I've lived this for 3 decades, where you want to help people, and you wonder, is it worth it? When you talk to your friends, they look at you with glazed over eyes. At least you and I have the ability, and it's very cathartic for me to sit and talk to people who are listening to your show, who want to learn and who understand it. But us people, you and I, and those out there watching the show, even if it gets to be 50,000 people, we are but the pimple on the elephant's ass.
Yeah.
And when the
1%.
elephant turns around and says, holy shit, I need some silver now, it is way, way, way too late. Yes.
Yep. Do you think Elon Musk is secretly buying silver right now? I feel like he's a secret silver stacker. He's talked about gold before, but why in the hell would he want gold? Right? Gold means nothing to him. It would be silver, and he's a smart guy, even though people.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And
Yeah.
as smart as he is, he's not going to tell us about it until
Right.
after he's accumulated all he needs.
Yes.
And that's like China. Remember we talked about these mystery gold whales that I don't know if I talked with you about that or not, but in the third quarter, 400 tons of gold were delivered out off the exchanges and left. That 400 tons of gold, only 120 tons of it were registered to known buyers. 280 tons of it, Bloomberg and Reuters says, were mystery gold buyers. They surmised it was India, China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia. Where have we heard of those?
Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi
BRICS.
Arabia.
So China just came out and said, yes, we were buying lots of gold in the third quarter. Alistair McLeod will tell you that they have 38,000 metric tons, 20,000 owned by the state, 18 by the people. That'd be 5 times as much, 5 times as much gold as we own. But they're reporting that they own about a third of what we own, like 4,000 metric tons. In other words, why would they tell us? Why would anyone who is accumulating tell? This is more misdirection. Misdirection is a very common theme. It's taught everywhere in major business schools, in law schools. The concept of misdirection through the book, The Art of War, is mandatory reading at CIA, mandatory reading at West Point. It's Bill Belichick uses it to formulate game theory. Everyone who is trying to reposition themselves would not be well served to say to the whole world, yeah, we're going to reposition ourselves because this is where you want to be.
Right.
And before you are finished saying that, everyone is there. Yep. Instead, you do what you can to make it seem like that is not where you want to be.
Yeah.
Just like in a game of basketball, everyone goes this way and you pass it over here.
Yeah.
The no-look pass. It's misdirection. We are being misdirected by a price. And what gives all of that away is the largest drawdown in history of the markets in physical supply. And no one but the people listening to you or to me or the few other people talking about this will get it. And that's why the herd wakes up and is like, what the hell just happened? And now what do we do? Because we can't find it. That's the big picture. When does it happen? What's the trigger point? Couldn't tell you. If I had to guess, it would have something to do with the BRICS nations, of course, but I think we're a lot closer to a point where we began to understand silver and gold's real value, real price. You know, one of the things Ted Butler talked about in his latest article, which I found very interesting, was that over the last 40 years, the commercial banks have been shorting a rising market every time. Let's talk about that for a minute. If you think of GameStop and AMC, what was everyone doing? Shorting what? A falling market. If the price is falling and you're throwing gasoline on that fire, shorting it, you can do that, right? But what if the price is rising? You want to short that? You better have real deep ass pockets, because you're shorting a rising market, which means your losses are potentially unlimited.
Yeah.
So what the commercial banks are famous for doing is they suck in the speculators. They're the ones who sell the options. So they let the price rise. They sell the options to all the traders and the hedge funds who are now going along with these options. And then right before the options expire, they smash the shit out of the price. They drive it down. And what happens? Those options expire worthless. The commercial banks get to keep the premium. They don't have to pay anything out, and they rinse, wash, and repeat. But the way they do that is they let the price rise, and then they short until it turns over and collapses, because they're putting so much money on short contracts that it overwhelms the longs, because they have deeper pockets, right? And they're the ones that sold the options. They know where the pain points are for all the hedge funds, for all the longs, right? So what they have been doing for 40 years by rinse, washing, and repeat, suck in the speculators, then sell short into the rising market so much that it turns over. What Ted Butler said in the latest Commitment of Traders report is that the commercial banks are not shorting. There are other commercial entities that are. And the commercial banks are the most sophisticated, well-informed traders on the planet. In other words, he says, who are the new commercials? Now, for people who understand properly the term commercial, when I say commercial bank, we all know what that means. When we say commercials on COMEX, most people believe that's the banks, and it is. But it also encapsulates a group of people like myself. I own a business where I have to employ futures contracts to hedge my inventory, right? If I have $20 million worth of silver in my inventory in my warehouse, let's call this 20 million bucks worth of inventory. And then I'll take this 20 million on paper and I'll sell it. Because if this is in my inventory and it goes up, this goes down commensurate. But if this is my inventory and it goes down, this goes up commensurate. So I am always market neutral to the ups and the downs of the gold and silver market. That is a legitimate business utility where I am using the COMEX market to hedge my exposure to inventory. That is considered a legitimate business expense or business practice. Therefore, I'm a commercial. I'm not shorting the market to speculate. I am using the market in the spirit of which it was designed. So companies like mine are commercials. There are some commercials out there that are shorting the hell of the out of the hell of the market right now. But what Ted is saying, it's not the big commercial banks. Some other entity is doing it. Is it an arm of the commercial banks? Who knows? I don't know.
Right.
But I would simply say that the commercial banks are the most well-informed people in the world. And if they're not shorting and have been largely long on COMEX, and bank like JP owns over 1.2 billion ounces of physical silver, at some point they're going to let it run, and maybe we're almost there. Don't know. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I love what Ted Butler talks about. You know, he'll talk about spoofing and price manipulation to that front, but then he'll go much deeper and more sinister. And I don't see a lot of other people talk about that.
There's no one who is as in depth. The only person that I would put in at Ted's level in terms of understanding of the COMEX and reporting on it would be Craig Hemke. And he's not only a wonderful person, smart as hell, and is really good at explaining complex issues. So this would be a guy that you would be well served to have on your show one day. Craig Hemke, he writes for Sprott. He's a friend of mine. I can make the introduction. He's a wealth of information. And I put him up there with Ted Butler in terms of his understanding and reporting and explanation of the COMEX market.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were just talking about, your inventory and all that, I think it would be, we rarely, especially like for silver YouTube channels, we rarely get to, especially on like a weekly basis, see the inside, we're always kind of looking outside, but to have someone like you, especially like for the live stream, people could ask you specifically, to kind of see more how that works, just there's more of the details that that none of us really, I'm sure we all like have an idea of, but for you to even look at the numbers or the supply or like what the US, how you said the US meant cut down half of their gold, was it last year or something? Yeah, like
It
that type
was
of stuff.
this summer, 2022. They
Yeah,
contacted us in June or July and said all gold will be decreased by one half production, which made zero sense because for
right.
the last 3 years, silver has been what everyone's wanted.
Yeah, so stuff like that. Maybe the next episode we could go into that type of stuff. That'd be pretty
Yeah, I would
cool.
love to do a live stream next week and
Yeah,
chat with your listeners. It's a great way because a lot of the questions that people are dying to know are actually, they're very important and they're very important for everyone to talk about
yeah.
because sometimes we gloss over things that people want to know. We take for granted some of the most important things that people don't really understand, and I would love to do that.
That's a good point. That's actually a really good point. I know sometimes I'll purposely not make videos or something because I'm like, well, everyone knows this or it's obvious, but then it's a lot of beginners out there or some people it's not obvious, and we do kind of take it for
Not
granted.
everyone who listens to your show has been listening to your show for 2 years.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
someone stumbles across you and is wanting to learn more about silver.
Perfect example, Robert Kiyosaki. I've gotten probably, I'm not even exaggerating, probably like over 1,000 emails from people that said they saw me on the show. And there's something I wish I would have talked about more. When I was talking about silver, I forget a lot of those people. When I say silver, they think of the SLV. They didn't understand. I'm talking about eagles and generic rounds. And I wish I could have got that point across more. I was just assuming they understood that, but I don't know.
That's a
It was
problem when you're as much of an expert as you are. And one of the things that I've been telling you offline is that I view you as an expert, and you need to view yourself as an expert. You are, and there are very few silver guys out there. There's you, there's David Morgan, there's Chris Marcus, of course, there's Wall Street Silver, and a few other people who are silver centric. And when you become an expert in something, oftentimes some of the things that you would consider mundane and everyone knows, there's a good segment of the population who doesn't. And so
yeah,
that's why one of the reasons I'd love to do a live stream Q&A. And we could do that even once or twice a month. And I think you'll find it will be met with great enthusiasm because people are I mean, I do one every Thursday with the original Mark Z, and I've been doing it for months and months and months. And every week there's more questions than the last. You would think that everything we've talked about has answered those questions, but it's not the case. So, yeah, let's figure out how to do a live stream next week. I would
yeah,
love to do that. I think it would be very beneficial.
yeah. Well, I think we could wrap things up here. I also wanted to mention if you guys did want to buy silver or gold, the links in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. Send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Let them know Silver Slayer sent you. I know Andy would love to hear it. And what were you talking about, the soft launch, Andy?
Yeah, we're actually, it's been very embarrassing for me, and a source of great aggravation. I've been telling the world since August that we're 2 weeks away, and I was told that by my developers that it's another week, just another week, and it's gotten to the point where I don't really want to be in the same room with my website developers because I will end up doing things that I probably shouldn't do and say things I
Yeah,
shouldn't say. I was told that tomorrow, Friday, we have our internal soft launch. And I believe it. I've looked at the site and it's done. The last piece of the puzzle has been the affiliate software, which is very important, obviously.
Yeah.
That soft launch will happen tomorrow. I am very optimistic that we will be able to launch it maybe a week after, but I'm beginning to think that the best way for me to do this would be to launch it January 2nd, the day after New Year's, and or January 1st, to spend the next 2 weeks going through all of the bugs. I guess we'll see. But I will tell you that I have been told by the developers that tomorrow we can open it up for our office. Over the weekend, we all plan on placing orders to make sure the credit card system works, the crypto payment system works, that there aren't any bugs or misspelled words or dead links. And I'll tell you, it's been the most
I can't
difficult, aggravating experience of my career, but we're almost there, and I really appreciate everyone sticking with us. Yeah, and you're right. Until then, info@MilesFranklin. And one other thing I want everyone to know is that this website is not the only way to purchase. We will maintain a hybrid model. I have 14 brokers that are all some of my oldest best friends, go back to elementary school with all of them, elementary, junior high, or high school. They're family, and we all treat my business as a family business. So whether you want to just do something in the comfort of your home, not talk to anybody, or you need to talk to someone, we will be able to do both. And all of my brokers are well versed in geopolitics and economics, in what matters. So yeah, I appreciate the plug. I appreciate our friendship and relationship, and this has been amazing, and I look forward to a wonderful year 2023. And I will tell you, if I had to guess, 2023 is going to be the year of the BRICS, and there's going to be a lot to talk about. And we'll continue to bring the info to the public each week. And let's start by doing our first live stream next week. And then at that point, we'll see if we're going to do anything else before the end of the year with the holidays, and then pick up hard at the beginning of January and see where this craziness leads to, especially over the next 2 years as we get towards the 2024 election.
Yeah. I'm excited. There's a lot there already is a lot to talk. I can't imagine next year it's going to be crazy, especially for silver's price. So yeah,
we are, by the way, running specials right now on the 2023 Britannia and the 2022 Krugerrand. Both are $475 over the price of silver, in stock and ready for delivery. And but we will always make sure that your listeners are getting the most competitive rate in the country and personalized service, and they will not be the first complaint that we've ever had in 33 years. That I can promise you.
Nice. Yeah, that's why I always tell people, just sending an email and purchasing that way might be more beneficial, because you're always, building that relationship. If anything does go wrong, right, you could they know you personally. It's a relationship there, instead of, just buying from some random site online that doesn't really
and
care
you never
about
know
you.
how much a relationship really means until there is a problem.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
We're good at problem resolution. I say we've never had a complaint. We've screwed up plenty, but we make it right. And a problem is nothing but an opportunity to strengthen a relationship. So I will let you run, and I wish you, your family, and everyone out there a great weekend. And I'll look forward to picking up with you, hopefully on a live stream next week, Thursday. But until then, stay well, my friend, and look forward to picking up where we left off.
Yep. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.